The book is called Inside Information. Discover the Inner Voice That Guides by Francis Wairicu. He's a phenomenal man. I've just had a couple of minutes to get to know him and I am incredibly inspired. And I'm hoping the next 30 minutes will also serve to transform your life, because that's what he does. He facilitates transformation. So glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making it.
Thank you.
I want us to talk about what is inside information first.
What is inside information?
Yeah.
Now, Catherine, if you knew what was happening at State House, Nairobi, where the president is, would you be a rich person?
No.
You'd definitely be.
Why?
Because all the parties will be looking for you, because they want some inside information from State House.
Okay, from that angle, yes. But just knowing maybe doesn't serve me purpose unless I understand why.
You understand why? Now, inside information is, actually the book is about the inner voice that guides our lives. Everybody has an inner voice, but many times you're not sensitive to that voice. At times you think it's just something, it's something out of the blue, something that that comes by fluke, something that just happened by accident. But many times there's that voice that tries to speak to us, to stop us. It speaks to your conscience and tries to stop you from doing something or tells you to act on a particular thing. So that is what I call the inner voice that guides.
Yeah.
Now, the book Inside Information is based on the prophet Elijah. The prophet Elijah, at one time when they were in Israel, the king from the enemy's camp was looking for a traitor because he thought that his men were leaking some very vital information to the Israelites. But what was happening is that where they were, the prophet Elisha could tell or could get this inside information even from the king's own bedroom. And that is the basis of this book, because the inside information, it's not something that you are taught. It's not something that you go to learn in school. It's being sensitive,
yes,
to the things, the surroundings, and what is happening,
yes,
within you.
I call it the voice of God. Is that what you're talking about? You know, that still small voice that guides you, directs you, which most of the time we, or rather let me speak for myself, ignore because you imagine it's just things in your mind. Yet it actually is your director, so to speak. Yes,
very true. It's what you'd call the voice of God, because it's actually God speaking to you. It's actually some people would say their instincts. Listen to your instincts.
Or your gut.
Or your gut feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. So people will call it different names, but I chose to call it the inside information.
So I know you have experiences where this inside information has saved your life several times. Could you give us one instance?
There's one that is recorded in the book, and it's in one of the chapters that I call Man's Calamity and God's Opportunity.
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10 of the book. I can see you've gone through it already. And this is a situation where I got to a place and I was using public means. And when I got into this particular bus, I forgot, because I'd been so used to driving. So I just forgot and removed the money that was in my pocket to pay my fare. But in normal circumstances, what I do, I keep my fare aside. So that particular day, I removed some good amount of money and removed my fare and put the money back. And then I noticed that in that bus, there were people, about 6 of them, who started to communicate amongst themselves. I could hear what they were saying, but they were speaking in coded language.
Yet you could hear it.
I could hear what they were saying, but I could not understand what they were telling each other. And so what happened is, as we went to the estate where I live, we found this crowd on the road. There was a man lying on the road. He had been crushed by a vehicle. When everybody was looking out of the window, I relaxed. And then suddenly, I shot for the door and I stepped out of the vehicle. My friend did not understand how fast I moved to the door. And because there was a big crowd, I went behind that crowd and stood and watched that particular vehicle. And I saw those 6 guys alighting, and they came looking for me. And so that particular day, I had put on some very light clothes that you could identify from far. It was a bit dark. And so I decided to remove my jacket, which was squeamish. And I remained with my t-shirt, a blue t-shirt, at least to put them off. And I put it in a paper bag, and I told my friend, now let's walk, because my friend had already caught up with me. I walked the whole distance because I knew what they were going to do. They are going to distribute themselves in those vehicles, and wherever and whenever they are going to find me, they are going to deal with me there and then.
Yes.
And so that particular day, because of the inside information, I was saved by a dead man.
Ooh. That has goosebumps all over me. That is powerful. Tell me, how first of all do we recognize that the inner voice we all have and all are listening to is real? Na sio sisi kujiongelesha. You know, we just assume and say, hiyo tu ni mimi najiambia. Yet it actually is the inner voice, the voice of God, what I like to call it. How do we recognize that? Is there any criteria for it?
Okay, one of the things that you need to do now, like you're calling it, it's the voice of God. Now, if it comes from God, you need to be connected to the source. So how do you get connected to the source? You see, when a human being is a very unique creature or part of creation, because a human being was first formed. They were created and then they were formed. An animal was created. Now, God said, let us create man in our own image and in our own likeness. And so he created man in his own image and in his own likeness. But when you go to chapter 2 of Genesis, it says, and now let us form man out of the dust of the ground. And so man was created and he was also formed. And that's why when you go to a funeral service, they say the dust goes back to the dust. So whatever was formed out of something
goes back to it.
It goes back to that. So where does the created part go? It goes back to its maker. And so what is the criteria? You need to be connected to the source.
Yes.
When you pluck out a plant from the ground, if it dies, it's crushed.
Yes.
It becomes soil again.
Yes, yes. So by the same principle.
By the same principle, and that's why the Bible says to be absent in the body is to be present with the Lord.
Yeah. So to know and identify this inner voice that gives us inside information, we must be connected to the source, which is the creator.
That's true. Very true.
That is phenomenal. I like how you've broken it down, you know. Let's talk about your work as a facilitator of transformation. First of all, what is that? How do you facilitate transformation?
Okay. What I've come to learn